Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show. How are you? You guys doing all right? I think I think right off the bat, I will tell you that the show is recorded today. Tom is at Disney World, but he's here. He's actually here. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Director Matthew floating around the place. Twitter's at J Cameron Show. Come on in, everybody. We're treating today as a Libations Friday. It is Thursday, but I think I'm going to refer to the show in Friday terms throughout the afternoon, just so you know right off the bat, because we're off tomorrow and we're off Monday, and we're going to enjoy the hell out of that.
That is correct. I'm going to go pay a visit to the mouse for a few days, and then I'm going to go see my pops for Memorial Day weekend. His birthday is on the 30th of this month, so it'll be nice to have a nice mini birthday for him. So it's going to be a long weekend, but a good one.
In advance, happy birthday to your father.
You know how old he is? You know exactly how old he is.
He's as old as my dad. It's a big birthday.
That's right. Your dad's the 8th, the 5th?
May 8th, that's right.
8th. All right. 22 days apart. That's so crazy because we are 15 years apart.
I am the world's worst with birthdays. I forget everybody's birthday, including close family members. I always, for whatever reason, remember my father's birthday.
There you go. All right. Well, his birthday is May 8th, 1948. There you go.
Well, it's just funny because I don't know why that is. Maybe being the product of divorce. So when you're in separate houses, you're like, oh, I got to remember the little things, birthdays, Christmas, stuff like that, because I'm not always going to see them. So it was kind of, I think that's why I did.
It's the make it count theorem.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyhow, yes, he just had a big birthday. And he's resigned himself. I don't know if your dad's doing this. He's resigned himself to the, I've got to embrace these birthdays. Who knows how many more I have? Well, that's what he does. That's what my dad does.
My dad is more, it's dark humor, but there's more dark humor on phone calls with him these days. This is what happens when you get old. Some days I can't open my hand and I got to pry it open with my finger. And some days I can. And you know what you do, though? You have fun with it. You wake up, you play a game. How many fingers can I open?
Oh, my God, that's
without
crazy.
using my other hand. And some days I guess it right. Some days it's 2. Some days it's 5.
I told you this, too, the other day. I probably told you this last year, but I've mentioned it frequently, kind of offhandedly. My mother, who's in incredible shape and has been in great shape because she eats like a bird. She eats healthy. She exercises every day and has her whole life. So she's what we should aspire to health-wise, like really, really disciplined. And yet, because of age, she'll be like, oh, yeah, I told you this on the air. I told the audiences. I told her I was having problems with my shoulder about a year ago where I just would be like, geez, I don't know what's going on with my shoulder. She's like, oh, there are weeks I can't even feel my arm. I'm like, what? What? She goes, oh, yeah. She goes, I had a stretch about a year ago where I couldn't feel my left arm for 2 weeks. This is what we have waiting on us, Tom.
Yeah, this is you gain an appreciation, too, because relative to your age, your dad was a lot younger for you as you went through.
Correct.
My dad obviously was 15 years older. So starting in freshman year of high school for you, that's how my dad was for the entirety of my full childhood. And so he used to play golf with me through a lot of pain. And we play golf less frequently, but I mean, we played all the time. And he'd have these terrible pains.
Yeah.
And I realize now that he was 50. He's your age. He was in his late 40s, early 50s. He served in Nam. He did all these things. He blew out his knee playing rec league softball when he was 30, before I was born.
Yeah, sure.
He's got all these pains. And I'm like, Dad, get it together. We got to move. Let's go, because I'm 15 and I'm an ass. And now I realize he must have gutted through a lot of bull crap, in order to play with me. And I should have appreciated that more.
It's funny. I make fun of myself these days. You have no choice. Otherwise, you get extremely frustrated. But, there was a stretch of about 3 weeks recently when you and I would go play. And I'm like, God, my shoulder. I don't know what's going on with my shoulder. But I had jarred it somehow. And then it just was, you don't heal as quickly as you once did. And so it's just like 3 weeks. I'm like, oh.
So he has TMJ, he has a mandibular issue. He messed up his discs shoveling snow back in the day, which is why they moved. And he has a shoulder issue. And so he's playing golf through all that. and he'd hit a bad shot and he'd do this thing. And I go, is it the shoulder again? Like a jerk, you know?
Well, yeah, that's what's hard about it. It's like, because we watch athletes do it too, Tom. Like elite 20-year-old athletes have a loser's limp, if you will, you know? And so you're kind of like, come on, Dad, you just shanked it. You know you did. It's not your shoulder, but it was his shoulder, you know?
And I'm sure it was excruciating. The man has a really high pain tolerance. So, you know,
That's
sorry,
okay.
Dad. Happy birthday. Sorry, man. I really apologize.
Hey, something on the plate here, Florida State related, that I actually think is interesting. And a couple of things we'll get into this hour. But I saw this earlier today before we came on here and got together to do the show. Adam Rittenberg, ESPN senior writer. I think he does good work for them. You know, the funny thing is ESPN gets beat up a lot, and our fan base hates ESPN. I know what ESPN is, and I don't really worry about it. And I actually think they're better than people give them credit for. But that said, if you're on top of the heap, you're going to take beatings, and that's just what comes with the territory. But Rittenberg does a good job. And he did a story, basically college football future power rankings for offenses. He's done it for defenses as well. And so it's list season, you know, I mean, we talk about this. And I wanted to look at where we sat on these rankings for 2023, 2024, and 2025. And for whatever reason, I'm going to sneeze incessantly this entire segment.
Well, here's what I can do. I can start the conversation by laying.
I'm back.
Oh.
But I got to the mute button that time.
You did. Anyhow, I didn't even have to click it. I couldn't believe it. I went and I saw the function, and it's already clicked. So good.
Yeah, no, I did it. I survived it this time around. Anyhow, something got in my nose right when we started. So I'm just going to read you this and then I'll give you the rankings. We can have a conversation about it because it's interesting. The challenge with ESPN's future power rankings is projecting success over the next 3 seasons, 23, 24, and 25. Washington breaks into the top 10 of our future rankings for offense after being unranked last year. Penix is amongst an excellent group of returning quarterbacks in the Pac-12. How many have the right players around them and behind them on the depth chart for staying power through 2025, though? And then they get into these assessments and they rank quarterbacks, defenses, they've done all that stuff, and how they go forward with these incoming freshmen and departing recruits and transfers, and then other people that came into your program, obviously via transfer portal as well. So you've got a lot of balance there. He notes that coaching continuity also played a role in his rankings. So you want, obviously if you have Lincoln Riley or you have Ryan Day as your coordinator and head coach, that helps. That helps. You know, if you've got, other play callers that are coming in for their first year, that's not as stable. So last year, Ohio State and Alabama led the rankings. Here's what he has now for the new top 25. And I can't see how he wouldn't have USC number 1. And I'm correct. He's got USC number 1 because that's what Lincoln Riley does year in and year out. It doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. He basically won a Heisman Trophy for every Oklahoma quarterback that played under him. And now Caleb Williams has done the same. So here you go. They're number 1. Don't need to get into it. Ohio State's number 2. That's because every year they have the best receiving core in football. And every year some quarterback you've never heard of replaces the one that just left and was all world and steps right in and lights it up. I'm fine with that. He's got Georgia there at number 3. Now, to me, I'm not so sure I would have gone with that. Just because you are changing coordinators and you are losing your starting quarterback in Stetson Bennett. And I get that they have talented quarterbacks coming in and all-world talent around him. But when you lose Todd Monken, Tom, I think that's a problem. Todd Monken's an elite coach.
I do as well. This is about them being affixed in the top 2 of the recruiting rankings for years and years and years, more than it is. That's going to outweigh the coordinator situation. And the talent in the trenches is going to do so as well. I think that's the reasoning there. I get it. And Alabama 10 years ago could have been number 3 or number 4 in the rankings without a quarterback, just because they're going to be able to run the ball down your throat.
That's correct.
But I think that's probably the thinking here.
Yeah, I think you're right. But we'll skip ahead. He's got Alabama 4, and he's got Michigan 5 because they run the ball. Plus, they've got J.J. McCarthy, who was a freshman a year ago. I get all that. That's fine. Tennessee, again, Josh Heupel. He has brought an offensive philosophy that's going to be unwaveringly prolific. They're going to throw the ball around. I believe that. He's got Oklahoma at 7, Washington at 8, 9, Texas. Well, hard not to think about that with Arch Manning there. And then Florida State.
Yep.
And very specifically, this is what I wanted to get to. He writes, Florida State hired coach Mike Norvell largely because of his track record on offense. After 3 seasons, Norvell has a team poised to achieve his vision beginning this fall. Quarterback Jordan Travis returns for his final season, boosted by a huge 2022 campaign that featured 3,214 pass yards, 417 rush yards, 64% completions, 33 touchdowns. After 2023, FSU could turn to Tate Rodemaker at quarterback, a veteran backup, stepped in for Travis at times last season, or younger players that I like, A.J. Duffy, ESPN number 3 pocket passer, number 60 overall recruit in 2022. The Noles also have 2024 commitment from ESPN 300 QB Luke Kromenhoek. FSU's running back situation also looks good as Trey Benson returns, and he goes on through the whole thing, right? And he notes that they have also commitment running back Cameron Davis, top 50 prospect. The biggest reason for FSU's rise is an offensive line group that underperformed for years, but finally sees stable footing. And he goes through all of those. And then he talks about young receivers, which we're going to do later this hour too, Tom. I'm very excited about that. And he does rightfully mention the rectified tight end room. So he's doing his homework at the very least. He does understand where FSU improved. And I think for these reasons, Florida State is rightfully in that top 10. I would note that a certain freshman quarterback is the reason I'm very excited about the future of this offense and not Tate Rodemaker. Sorry, Tate. You'll hold it down for a year possibly. But the real reason to get excited is the kid that just came in here at quarterback in spring.
Yeah, Brock Glenn. I agree. I'm surprised not to see his name there considering he was an Ohio State commit. Adam Rittenberg, like everybody else, politics is local. Well, so is the way you cover things. Having Michigan at number 4 and Tennessee at number 5 or 5, 6, whatever it was, is ludicrous to me. Tennessee should absolutely be trending beyond Michigan on offense. Michigan, come on now. And that system looks like it's going to be fortified again with a different quarterback. I think Tennessee's going to prove that this year. But because Adam Rittenberg is a Big Ten guy, I would think that Brock Glenn might have made the list there. And I agree with you. I feel more comfortable in the future stock of Brock Glenn as a bridge to Kromenhoek than I do with A.J. Duffy at present. It's not to say that Duffy didn't have a good finish to spring. He did. But Brock Glenn looked much more comfortable in his first camp than A.J. Duffy did, relatively speaking, if you're comparing apples to apples. However, the one thing that Brock Glenn walked into versus A.J. Duffy was a much more healthy situation on the offensive line so that you could actually run the offense instead of getting dominated and having 1 second to make a decision. So Glenn had it a little bit easier in that regard. But if you were to strip away all of the players on offense that are going to be gone next year, and there are a lot of them, you start to actually have more answers for next year. The last 6 months has proven that. Dre Jacobs, Hakeem Williams, now Destin Hill, Goldie Lawrence, and
Davius Jacobs.
Dre, I said Dre. I led with
that. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yep.
Biscuit will be your tight end next year. There's no problem there. I think Morlock's got an extra year.
Yeah, Morlock will be here. Yeah.
In case he wants to stick around because he'll be featured more next year instead of Jaheim Bell. Rodney Hill, Keziah Holmes. There's more running backs there. The Sam Singleton's coming in, Cam Davis in the next recruiting class. Lucas Simmons, Julian Armella. Like, you start to think about next year, and it's not as much of a grand exodus where there's nothing behind it when you go position by position.
I've been saying this for a while. I don't think we're going to fall off as much as everybody else does. I think you got to figure out the quarterback position. That's really it. You just got to figure out the quarterback position. I think he's now brought in enough talent. We've raised the floor to a place where Florida State can win 10 games, and we should start expecting it every year. That's what the standard has to be again. It's always been the standard. Let's get back to that. Everybody loses players. You've got to recruit at a high level so that you don't have massive drop-offs and great fluctuation. You need to be able to go from winning 11 games one year, 10 games the next year, 12 the next year, back down to 10 or 11. Right. It ought not be we win 10, win 11, win 6. No, that's not what we're doing around here. So I do think the talent is there on this roster. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get better, Tom. I think they will continue to thrive. This is an offensive-minded coach with Alex Atkins on his side. Game plan, really good week to week. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, WarchantTV. What's up, guys? Our next partner that you're going to hear from is Athletic Greens. You've heard me talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Happy to talk about them again. I take Athletic Greens every day. And I gave them a try because certainly I wanted more energy, sustained energy. I wanted to support my immune system. I don't like taking pills and vitamins per se. And I wanted something that tasted good too. And the first time I tried it, I was very surprised. It had an appreciable effect on my energy levels. And also, over time, you'll note that it helps your skin, your hair, your nails. I don't have a lot of hair, but if I did, I bet I could feel that. I bet I could tell. It's a comprehensive health habit, and it is a powerful one at that. AG1 is great for recovery. That's Athletic Greens. And I take mine basically when I wake up every morning. I don't have to worry about it because you get all the nutrients that you want. It's the best way to ensure that you're going to get all of your vitamins. It's a carbon neutral business, by the way, if that's important to you. It is to a lot of people, and that's good to know as well. I would also note that it is a comprehensive solution to what you need from a supplement routine. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs right now with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCS. Helps me out, guys, if you use that. Not financially, but it lets them know that you heard this ad on my show. And I do take it, and I am vouching for them because I enjoy their product. It's athleticgreens.com/JCS. Check it out. I think you'll note the difference in your life with a simple drink each and every morning to start your day. athleticgreens.com/JCS.
About 50 years, Paul's Termite and Pest Control has been protecting homes and businesses for thousands of people right here in the Big Bend, and we're quite proud of that. Fact is, all of us here at Paul's have families, and nothing is more important to us than their protection. By providing effective termite and pest treatments, we know we're aiding many right here in our community.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control performs many services designed for the protection of your family and your home. Programs like Pro Shield Complete, which encompasses termite and general pest control in one low-cost quarterly treatment plan. This program is environmentally friendly and is almost exclusively limited to exterior treatments, meaning pests and termites never enter your home. Termite programs like Centricon, a service which requires no invasive drilling or liquid applications. Plus, our lawn care team keeps lawns and ornamentals green and healthy.
Protection of your family, your home, and our environment, all are very important to each of us at Paul's. To learn more about our many programs, please visit us at callpauls.com.
For the elimination of termites or any other pests.
And the greener lawn, too.
Call Paul's. We'll get them all.
Discover the taste of Peru at Café de Martín and El Bar, a one-of-a-kind culinary and cocktail concept created by classically trained chef Martín Araujo. Con amor y pasión, with love and passion, Café de Martín is a fine Peruvian dining experience in an approachable, comfortable, cultural-rich space built for creating memories to last a lifetime. Enjoy happy hour daily with a full bar, handcrafted cocktails, beers on draft and bottle, paired with a selection of Peruvian tapas like crispy fried yuca with house-made huancaína sauce, carefully selected charcuterie boards, a selection of fresh ceviches, and so much more. It's Café de Martín and El Bar. Escape to Peru, a country of great culture, beauty, and food right here in the capital city. Café de Martín and El Bar on Capitol Circle Northeast in the Esposito Shopping Center. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Online at cafedemartin.com.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
At Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas, it's prime time hot tub season. And after a long, stressful day, there's nothing like soaking in a hot tub with all that steam. And it has lots of great health benefits, too. Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas is your true hot tub headquarters. Save today on the hot tub of your dreams at prices you can afford. Come and shop our 12,000 square foot showroom and find the right model for you. With over 50 hot tubs in stock, you're sure to find the one that's just right. And for a limited time, Take advantage of a free spa cover with purchase of your new hot tub. That's around a $400 value, completely free with your purchase. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come see us at 2473 Greer Road. Pick out your hot tub and enjoy your free cover. You'll be glad you did.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
I'll forget to do it. I don't want to forget to do it. I forgot it the other day as well. There have been like 3 or 4 lately. Most of the people, and this is the thing that kind of sucks with what's happened with, I don't know, what would you call it, Tom? The law that does not allow us copyright infringement that doesn't allow us to play bumper music.
Yeah, that would be correct. Yes, and the manner by which are the bots. The bots are trained to hear beyond, I think it's 6 or 7 seconds of audio. And once they do, it's like you get zapped.
We're holding out hope that in due time that the same sort of deal that allows you to play bumper music on the radio for the radio part of this, we can do it for a minute. We can do it 45 seconds, whatever we want. That's because, what is the name of that?
That's a licensing group. There's 2 of them, BMI and ASCAP.
I knew one of them was BMI. I couldn't remember the other.
If you are if you're a restaurant owner or somebody who has live music at your establishment, it's the same group, and they are ruthless. So you've got to be very, very careful about that.
Yeah, and so you're allowed to play these things without getting sued, and you're allowed to play the bumper music and all of that because of deals like that. But it hasn't come to the world of YouTube, and we monetize this show on YouTube. Okay, so there's no getting around that. We want to be multimedia. We want to be able to be on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, as well as WarchantTV and terrestrial radio 93.3. And there are different rules that govern this. But for many years, and you guys know this, most of you know this, almost another character on the show was my bumper music. And I'm a music nut. And Tom shares a passion for music as well. And so we have, I think a lot of people came to the show early on because of bumper music. Oh, there's a guy playing the Replacements on this show as bumper music. I actually ended up with a dear friend who now is the head of the Bob Dylan Museum in Tulsa, who has a music theory PhD. He came to the show because he heard the bumper music. He was like, this guy's okay. I just heard Fugazi. I just heard, yeah, you name it, right? So I wish we could still do that. Why am I bringing that up right now? Well, I'm still a music nut. Nothing's changed. We just don't get the chance to play it for you the way that we would. We have to have, that's why when we do probables, we don't play Summer Wind and all the things that we used to do, and it pisses us off. Now, I'm not going to harp on the negatives of that because the pros outweigh it. I mean, I will admit that, being able to be multimedia has enabled us to grow and do good things. But on days like today, where I want to salute the great Tina Turner, who passed away last night, we can't really do it in music form the way I would have wanted.
You got to give old Eric Angel credit. She passed away just before the show. He got the chat message in, but we were wrapping up on probables. So it happened yesterday afternoon around lunchtime.
Yeah, and here's rest in peace, Tina Turner. What a life. But here's what I would say. For some artists, and a lot of times, I mean, there are artists that pass and, I don't make mention because I either wasn't into the catalog or wasn't really aware of what they accomplished. I mean, we don't do it for everybody, but it is the Jeff Cameron Show. And if somebody was in any way impactful musically for me, I tend to bring it up. The bassist for the Smiths died the other day of pancreatic cancer. He's 59 years old. Sucks. I would have played something, although it's not necessarily conducive to play the Smiths of bumper music. A little dark. little dark, but he was a tremendous talent.
You could cherry pick a song or two, and it would.
Yeah, we do. We have. It's there all on the Spotify list. I think there's some Smiths on there. But anyhow, so the point would be, typically we try to doff the cap and acknowledge the life well lived and their contributions. And when the one thing I'll think about with her is that I wasn't old enough to remember her in the 60s or even the very early 70s when she's touring with Ike Turner, and you see all that famous footage. Let's face it, the woman was a legend for her long, muscular legs and tireless energy and her showmanship when she toured with Ike Turner. And, we know all that stuff. Where I remember her is where a lot of people remember her, which is the resurgent after getting out from under his abusive hands. And we know that story, tragic as it is. And I always admired the fact that somebody in their mid-40s, and we're talking now back in the 80s, coming forth and being like, yeah, listen, the life you thought I lived, no, that ain't it. I was born in a segregated hospital in Tennessee. My name's Anna Mae Bullock, and my husband beat the hell out of me for the better part of 30 years. My life sucked. And because he was always broke, gambling debts, drug debts, you name it, we had to tour incessantly. I once had to sing with a collapsed lung. I had pneumonia and bronchitis, but because this ass would not tour because he had to repay debts to gangsters, I had to be out there carrying the day all the time. So that's not what I'm going to do anymore. I'm going to make my own music, and I'm going to do it my way. And look, man, was What's Love Got to Do with it or any of those things? Are those albums I raced out and bought? No, but I acknowledge that is a hell of a midlife turnaround, and she vaulted herself to even greater fame. And if you think about, she was in financial ruin when all of this happened, and she becomes a superstar in her 40s and talks openly at a time where people did not do this about her pain and her trauma and the abuse. And it was an effort to help change those conditions for millions of women around the world. Dude, well lived. She ended up living in a 260,000 square foot house in Zurich in Switzerland. That's what she did. That's where she's lived for the second half of her life.
260,000 square feet.
She bought a castle, and apparently got very, very good, a very, very good deal on it at the time. It would be tough to do now.
Great deal. Best deal. You should really use this real estate agent. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. It's right on the lake.
It was $1 a square foot. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, Lake Zurich. So she ended up living there for the rest of her life, and who wouldn't? It's unreal. And she toured at her pace, and obviously had massive hits, and was an extraordinary performer and musician, and I think in many ways a role model for a lot of women who had to lift themselves up from financial ruin and abuse. So, tip of the cap, Tina Turner. Rest in peace. 83.
83. This is one of those situations where I just yield. It's the Jeff Cameron Show anyway, but it's specifically when you're talking about somebody who lived the bulk of their professional career before 1990. Yeah, it's like, you tell me about the circumstances and what it was like to watch her on all the late shows. And I'm sure that she did the circuit more than once with Ike and then by herself. And you watch those things because the channels, there were like 6 of them back in the day, and she was on them. I don't know those things. I just remember her being on, like Music Choice or a jukebox when I go out there, and she was always in existence. So you remember her when she wasn't always a solo artist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do. But I would go back and just say this. The Mel Gibson movie out there in the dystopian world in the sand, which they've remade.
What Women Want.
What?
No, I said What Women Want.
Oh, no. That's the Helen Hunt.
That is, yeah.
No, what's the name of that series? Mad Max?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mad Max, she was famous when they did the remake or the second piece. I never saw it. But
I didn't either.
We don't need another hero.
Did you see the Tom Hardy version?
Which I heard was incredible. Won the Academy Award.
Buddy, I have tried 4 times now, and I can't get past the first 15 minutes. I'm like, oh no, I'm done.
Well,
I'm done.
see, that's not okay. So what's funny about that, really quickly? I have not seen it, and I love Tom Hardy, and I heard the direction was amazing, cinematography was amazing, story was. I've heard that. Obviously, nominated, won a bunch of awards, all that other stuff. The thing is, I never liked the original, and everybody else did. I saw it as a kid.
Yeah.
This is before Mel Gibson was a superstar. This is the vehicle that led him to become a superstar. But I remember it used to be on HBO incessantly. Back in the days where you physically had to turn the little black box to get to HBO.
Right. Just like U.S. Marshals is on AMC right now.
Right now.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was on HBO incessantly. And I think by virtue of catching different parts of that movie out of order, I've put it together. I got it. I've seen everything there is to see in that movie. But I never really liked it. It wasn't my thing. And I don't even mean like it was, I'm not one of these people like, oh, it's too violent. No, more violence, please. No, it's not that. I just didn't care.
Violence doesn't bug me. Dystopian stuff doesn't. I mean, no, these things don't faze me. Slow burn movies, action-packed nonsense movies like a Schwarzenegger or a Van Damme. No problem. It's just I've tried, and I was in 4 different frames of mind, thinking, okay, surely now I am in the mood to watch Mad Max.
You're gonna make me watch it because I have a suspicion. So my friend, Stephen Rafferty, graduated FSU Film School, worked out in Los Angeles for the better part of 2 decades. He's a no-nonsense movie reviewer. He will tell you, like, even if a movie wins 100 awards, he'll call you and go, don't watch it. It sucks. It's a terrible movie. People have gotten swept away with this nonsense, or the opposite. I'll see something that gets panned. He's like, one of the brilliant pieces of cinema in the last 30 years. You need to watch it. People don't know what they're looking at. That kind of guy. Like, he will tell you. And he loved that movie. So I don't know, man. We've got to. Maybe you and I should watch it together.
We should. Maybe we could stop by our old Delta 8 friends, and then that's the ticket.
Woo! Let's go, little Mad Max. Here we go. I got my juice. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Let's talk some Florida State receivers next.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the 3rd one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow little burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Rolling on, Libations Friday. And, I think we should probably reassess a couple of things here, Tom. I saw it. I stumbled across it. And I guess I should alert everybody to it since it's on our website. I've been on, I think we said yesterday on the show, we're certainly getting into list season. And you and I did a video that some people commented on, and the video was about the Jameis snub in the top 10 there. And I think we actually handled that video the way we were supposed to handle it, which is sort of like, hey, guys, you get the deal here. If it's by yards, he's got no chance. If it's by, if you're going to have a 4-year career judge to a 2-year career and all that other stuff, but also ESPN, CBS, Fox, wherever it doesn't matter. Wherever it is you get your sports from. When we delve into list season, nobody ever agrees. That's the way it works. Even if you know, like I think Bill Connolly does a great job, for example, in at least laying bare his methodologies. Right, he'll tell you, well, this is how I came up with this, and these are the numbers that I'm looking at, and he continues to mine that field really well. And he'll say, now, using these numbers, this is what my formula spits out as the best in terms of returning starters on defense, or the best opportunities for growth based on SP plus, the best, all those things, right? And even he admits, like, there's no matter what he puts out there, somebody's going to be angry. I mean, we don't always agree on these things or the way they're assessed. And that got me thinking about our segment groups. And I was going through and reading an article on Warchant, and I saw a link to an article that, Tom, I was out of town when you guys published. I was not even around when you published the thing on the receivers. And then you had a poll and everything, buddy.
Well, the poll was released yesterday on the boards.
Right.
And, yeah. I will say, just for the sake of clarity, I didn't publish this. Ira is the editor who moves most of the articles live. But yeah, it did happen last weekend with the receivers. The channel was actually supposed to have a lot of these things lined up with the articles. That's on me. But the ACC stuff just kept on getting a lot of attention. So we spent our time on the conference more than we did the position groups, but now we're starting to circle back on it.
Well, and I won't do this with every position group. I mean, I'll direct people to warchant.com to read about it, and to if you want to partake in polls on the board, go ahead and do it. I mean, that's fine. It's cool. It's always, I actually find that fun. Post that poll if you can pull that up here that was done for the receivers, because it caught my attention, and I have some disagreement with not the findings. I mean, the findings are the findings. People vote how they vote. But it seems like there's an awful lot of stock on Winston Wright and obviously Kentron Portier. But if you think about, and for those watching the show on WarchantTV, you can see the poll is up there, and you see the percentages and who got what votes.
And the question is about who is going to be the third most important receiver. It's not about who's got the third most catches or the third most yards, because we envision that Florida State will have quite a bit of garbage time this year. So you could have something that's a little bit more deceiving. And it's the third most important wide receivers. So that eliminates a Jaheim Bell or a Morlock or a Biscuit or even Lawrence Toafili. You might see some of those guys actually higher in the rankings in terms of catches and yards and big plays made on a third down. But specific to the receiving room, because now that you have Keon Coleman, he plays a certain position at wide receiver, and Johnny, of course, plays outside as well.
Yeah, so that was going to be where I went, and I'm glad you set it up that way. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was thinking about the wide receiver room. And I was thinking, well, okay, Johnny Wilson split out wide. Keon Coleman's going to be split out wide. You need to be, if you're voting on the impact of a third receiver, you're going to vote a slot guy. One would think, right? And so I know that people think Winston Wright is going to be that guy. And by the way, Kentron Portier is going to matter. He's going to have a good year, I think. He did take real steps forward, but he's on the outside. He's a possession guy. He's a big receiver, just like Johnny's a big receiver, and Keon Coleman's a big receiver. But they're all out there out wide. So I'm looking more inside. And here's the thing: I don't doubt that Winston Wright will, get back to some kind of form, to where he looks to be a semblance of what he was at West Virginia, where he was so productive and was really their guy, the most dependable receiver they had. And, that's why we were so excited when we got him, is he was a proven entity in the Power Five and a guy that you thought could really do some good things for you. And tragically, through no fault of his own, you have a car accident and some devastating injuries and surgeries that follow. The first big story there is that he's okay. That's what you really care about. He's okay. The next big story is that, okay, well, he's going to have surgery. What's that mean for his season? Well, it turned out it meant that he couldn't play last year and spent the entirety of the last season rehabbing and getting back to full strength. And finding out what range of motion he had and what he could still do. And spring was the first time that he would have an opportunity to truly go live and to maybe showcase that he's all the way back. And I think probably by design, Tom, he was not able to showcase that he was all the way back. There's no doubt that his impact in the spring was minimal. There were not days where we walked away from practice saying, boy, Winston Wright's looking like he's rounding into form. That was never uttered. There was never a moment like that. He ran full speed. He cut. He was in pads. There were times that you thought, okay, well, that's a good sign, real good sign, especially given the tragedy of a car accident that strips your ability to play football. But I guess this is a long-winded way of me saying I got to wait and see it before I believe it. I hate to be this kind of pessimist, but I would rather go with Vendravius Jacobs. Even though he's a freshman, he was silky smooth in the spring. He was uber productive, far more impactful day to day in spring than Winston Wright was. He wasn't even close.
Yeah, you're doing the math on will the switch flip? Because if it does, Winston Wright, climbs to the top of the leaderboard, and it's not even close in terms of slot receiver. But this is a tough one. This is a tough one to me because this offense could be so multiple that, you could line up receivers in weird spots. The tight ends, of course, line up all over the field in Norvell's offense. I mean, if you wanted to go trips to the left, who lines up where in that particular circumstance? You could go a trips look to your left, then you got Marquiston on the end of the line on the right, and you could see where there's a zone read option. Like, there's all kinds of weird formations, and I don't know who the player is going to be with each set. And Mike Norvell is multiple enough to keep you on your toes. That's what we love about him. But I think if you're just going plainly by a standard operating formation in a 3 or 4 wide set, you need a slot guy, which means that Ja'Kai Douglas is on the short list with Winston Wright, with Vendravius Jacobs, and then perhaps Darion, who's a larger body but has shown in very limited live game reps that he can line up kind of anywhere and his skill set translates anywhere. But one of the wild cards to me would be Deuce Spann. Deuce Spann didn't have an awful camp.
No, he had a good camp for him. He had a good camp. The bottom line is when Deuce Spann got here, he was as raw as a receiver could be. He was also beyond athletic. He was a gifted gazelle. That's a guy that when you look at him, you think, holy moly, if the light bulb goes off for him, he could end up being better than all of them. That sounds crazy, but we're talking extremes. His speed and size and length and he's ridiculous. He also doesn't know how to play receiver. So,
it's gotten better though. It's
gotten a lot better.
You've seen the development from a kid who doesn't know how to place his hands and receive the ball. Rather, it's almost like he was swatting at the football rather than trying to receive it and catch it with touch. And that's now a normal thing for Deuce. I remember in the stadium practice, in addition to a couple of standard practices, where in the one-on-ones, he started to make a couple of guys in the secondary look foolish with his release off the line, which shows more of a comfort. You're not thinking about the steps you're taking. You're just playing the position, and you're showing your explosiveness. He also isn't afraid to block either, which I think is important. If you can get a slot receiver who also can profile as a blocker, that would be actually the argument for Kentron to play large in the slot. It's not like it's impossible to do so. Think about the Bruce Arians offense and what Hines Ward was and what Chris Godwin was. And, those guys weren't lined up outside all the time. And yet they could be integral parts of the offense. So, it doesn't necessarily mean in today's day and age of football that your slot guy has to be tiny. It's just if you look at the skill sets of Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, assuming those two are going to be your stalwarts on the outside, and the production suggests as much, what's different? How do you create variety on the field? And that's where you need a little guy. And I would give Ja'Kai Douglas a fighting chance in that situation because, again, if you've got Jaheim Bell on the field as well, that means Ja'Kai is going to be going against your 4th or 5th best cover corner or safety. And that dude with those quicks, I mean, you're going to win that battle. It's just if you see the green check, I agree with you. Dre Jacobs already looked polished. It reminded me of Rashad Green, just how professional, quote unquote, he looked immediately and in place. It didn't seem like he was a fish out of water. Hakeem Williams was a fish out of water for the first half of camp. Dre was not.
So think about this. When we talk about the wide receiver room, and it's hard not to get giddy, maybe not in the same way that we did about offensive line, where the offensive line went from the reason you're losing games to maybe one of the reasons you're going to win games. We've seen a seismic shift. But when you pull that graphic back up again for 1 second. I want to do this. So again, not talking about this upcoming season, but just looking at how they have flipped this room, you realize that Destin Hill, we saw him now. We know he's a real person and he's on campus. And when you look at him, he looks the part, right? He's not tiny. He's athletic. Well, obviously he's a burner. He's all these things. Now, I don't know how quickly he can get back into football and be polished because it's been 2 years. But, he's a young kid with a lot of talent. So you think about Hakeem Williams, Destin Hill, Deuce Spann, the continued development of Kentron Portier. You think about I said Hakeem Williams, right? Think about what you have now, and you got an incoming freshman coming in too.
Yeah, Goldie Lawrence, who's 6'2", 190.
Yeah. So you really now, when we start projecting outward after this year we know the guys we think are, I know we already mentioned him, but Vendravius Jacobs is a freshman. So here you go. I mean, you're starting to set yourself up now with an opportunity to have height and speed and a route running Jesse and Jacobs. You got a lot of guys now that are. Hakeem Williams is a freak athletically when you look at how big and strong he is. They're gonna have receivers set up now for the next 2 and 3 years. And I just want to point out while we're having that conversation about, who's going to impact, be the third guy, all that other stuff. It's fun to have these conversations because those names, they come one after the other. And you start going, oh, that's right. They got another one and another one and another one.
Well, the question also is they going to rotate receivers? And this is at the bottom of the screen here on Warchant TV. You're seeing a few comments from guys like Matty B. Noel, Mathis Jones, and Vinny Gambini, folks who subscribers to Warchant.com, the biggest FSU community on the web. And you could see the basic ideas of Kentron being the safe bet or Winston Wright. This is actually an important part of the function here. I think about the most important wide receiver. Winston Wright was a first down machine at West Virginia. It's 3rd and 6. You might have 4 catches in a game for 27 yards, but if 3 of them move the chains on 3rd down, that is
vital.
Huge. That is vital to the game. And who could be that player? I felt like Pokey Wilson was that guy last year, but Winston Wright could be that particular player. The thing is, remember in the Oklahoma game in the bowl, and I wonder if this was more about a bowl game than anything else, but they rotated a ton of wide receivers in the first half.
Yeah.
Actually, too many for my liking. You can't get in a rhythm of the game. I don't like that very much. I don't think you bring in Keon Coleman to rotate with Kentron at a 50-50 clip or even a 60-40 clip. But it's something to keep an eye on for this offense this year is, are they going to be about fewer reps and more explosive reps, and they're just going to go up and down the line? Or are they going to pick their horses and then ride them for the 2 or 3 quarters when you're trying to assert yourself, and then hopefully in most of these games be out of touch in the 4th quarter and you can rotate some guys in? I don't know the answer to that. I know what I like to see, but Coach Norvell does rotate guys an awful lot on offense.
So this is another subject, and maybe we can get into it next hour. I don't know. I know we're up against it here, but I'll tell you, Tom, one of the things I admired about the way Clemson built their dynastic run of the last decade, they played a ton of kids. They just played a ton of kids. Every year at the end of the year, this gets largely overlooked and not talked about. At the end of every year, I'd go back and look at snap counts. You naturally do it for your own team because you want to see who's progressing and who's not, because it's a reminder. You'll look, you're like, man, so-and-so's a sophomore and he played 6 snaps this year. This is not trending well. You know what I mean? Like you start looking at that. It matters if you get on the field. If they don't think enough of you to get you on the field, and you've been here 2 full years,
Yeah.
we got a problem, especially if you were a high-profile recruit. You know what I mean? So I'd look at Florida State, and I'd look at other teams in this conference, but I would look at Clemson. That dude found a way to get everybody in. Now, they beat the hell out of a ton of people, and it's easier to play guys. My point is, if you're operating at peak efficiency as a program and you're winning games the way you're supposed to and you're recruiting high-level talent, you ought to beat the bejesus out of a lot of people, and that should afford you the opportunity to rotate the hell out of every position. And thus, it gives you a chance, especially in the era of NIL and the era of transfer portal, to get kids on the field and not let that discomfort and anger and frustration grow within a player who's not seeing any playing time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is actually the lone benefit these days of being the ACC. You know, if Florida State was to eventually move and get out of this thing and be the SEC.
Yeah, you really wouldn't have too many chances to do it.
I mean, you'd have a few, but you wouldn't have 6 or 7 like they should this year.
You might have 2.
Yeah, right.
You might have 2 chances. Yeah, that's it. Vanderbilt and some other slappy.
Vanderbilt and slappy is scheduled before Florida.
Right. Yeah. That's it'd be the only time you have. And and even then, I'm not. Yeah. So I just, while you can, I think you got to do it. But I like this discussion. That was what I was originally getting at, was that I saw the article, I saw the poll, I read it myself on warchant.com, and then started thinking I should bring this up to Tom, because the exercise in itself allows you to look at all the names, and you can debate whatever you want about the third guy, fourth guy, whatever. But it's a reminder that you have a third guy, fourth guy, that you have the genesis of a very good receiving core going into 2024.
Yep. Right.
So you did not have that a couple of years ago, not even close.
And that's why the answer is going to be Destin Hill, because of course it will be.
Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space.
Well,
you got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow little burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Lawson & Lawson Electrical Services has been Tallahassee's preferred residential electrician for over 30 years. Hi, this is Rowdy Lawson, and we've earned our reputation because we care about our customers, about quality, and about providing great service. We stand by every job we do and consider it a privilege to work on a family project like a new house, a custom addition, or a green renovation. For all your residential or service projects, call the good guys, Lawson & Lawson Electrical Services, 562-4111.
The weather is unpredictable and can cause issues around your home. Weston Trawick provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
Power Mill Training Academy equips motivated athletes focused on baseball and softball with the specific tools to reach their true potential. Now, you'll read that if you go to their website, but I'm here to tell you that, look, whether it's your daughter wanting to play softball, your son wants to play baseball, or maybe they just want to have fun and get the most out of their abilities, and that's where Power Mill comes into play. They've got coaches and camps that teach for every level of play for your son or your daughter. To learn more, Go to PowerMillSports.com.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee.
Do you know what brand sells the most work shoes in America? Skechers. Why? Skechers has the best looking safety toe and slip resistant shoes around. They've got superior quality and simply incredible prices, but many people get them just for the style. So you can enjoy tough steel toe protection and slip resistant soles anywhere, even if you don't need them for work. And since they're Skechers, you know they're going to be comfortable with Skechers exclusive air-cooled memory foam. Find your new pair of Skechers safety toe and slip resistant work shoes at a Skechers store, at Skechers.com, or wherever work shoes are sold.
Two guys drove to work. Neither guy wore a seatbelt. One guy got a ticket. One guy didn't. The same two guys drove home. One guy wore his seatbelt. One guy didn't. One guy made it home. The guy not wearing his seatbelt didn't. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Someone who thought texting was a better idea than stopping for a traffic light slams into your rear bumper. Now your back is injured and you've got to be at work and rehab all without a car. I'm Dana Brooks of Basic Brooks Law Offices, and we hear stories like this every day. You shouldn't pay for someone else's mistake. Call us at 850-777-7777 and we'll make sure you come back stronger.
Discover the tastes of Peru at Café de Martín and El Bar, a one-of-a-kind culinary and cocktail concept created by classically trained chef Martín Araujo. Con amor y pasión, with love and passion, Café de Martín is a fine Peruvian dining experience in an approachable, comfortable, cultural-rich space built for creating memories to last a lifetime. Enjoy happy hour daily with a full bar, handcrafted cocktails, beers on draft and bottle, paired with a selection of Peruvian tapas like crispy fried yuca with house-made huancaína sauce, carefully selected charcuterie boards, a selection of fresh ceviches, and so much more. It's Café de Martín and El Bar. Escape to Peru, a country of great culture, beauty, and food right here in the capital city. Café de Martín and El Bar on Capitol Circle Northeast in the Esposito Shopping Center. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Online at cafedemartin.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you...
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, WarchantTV. Good to be with you. Thanks for being with us. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Director Matthew floating about on Twitter. It's at J Cameron Show. Last hour, we brought up the receiver stuff, and I will do this for you this hour. I want to bring up quarterback stuff. Tom and I were talking about it during the break. And what we talked about specifically was that another poll question, if you will. I guess I could shamelessly promote our poll question. That's today's poll question Thursday. Warchant.com. Will Tate Rodemaker be QB2 throughout the 2023 season? I didn't know you did this poll question, Tom. I'm really missing out on the poll questions. I'm finding out at a later date or in some ancillary fashion. But yeah, there it was. We had over 400 votes, and 84% say yes, Tate Rodemaker will be QB2 through 2023 season. I don't know how you'd voted any other way, but what is compelling is that I think there's a different talking point here. Tate Rodemaker being QB2 for this season seems fairly reasonable and likely and logical. Is Tate Rodemaker going to be the starter for 2024 is a much better debate.
Well, yeah, I think, and those results were, 85-15, roughly speaking. I think that's about the percentage chance that I would say that Tate is the starter, or sorry, is the second quarterback throughout the season. It's a non-zero chance that one of the other two gives him a run for his money, because camp is going to be important, and then as the season goes on, those practices count for something. And I think the candidate's more Brock Glenn than AJ Duffy at this point, because you could see exponential growth from that young man. So but I think it's overwhelmingly likely that Tate holds down the job for now because you have such experience and you're loaded around him. But I think this second quarterback deal, the second space on the depth chart, is going to be a fun storyline to follow throughout the season, because it's not just going to play out in camp and practice. It's also going to play out in garbage time of the games themselves this year.
That's true. I would put the percentage chance that Tate Rodemaker is the backup, the number 2 quarterback throughout the season at like 97%. I don't. Yeah, you're right. It's not zero, but I mean, I just don't know how any of those guys. First of all, I don't think Duffy's better than Tate Rodemaker, so he's not going to do it. And I don't think you would throw Brock Glenn in his true freshman year. So, no, I don't. I just don't see how it's going to happen. I mean, Tate may not be ideal, but he's experienced. He's won a football game for you on the road in hostile conditions with a lesser team. Now you've got a better offensive line, better receivers, better tight ends, a deeper backfield. He's mobile. I mean, if you had to, you could one side read him. I mean, you could just be like, roll to the right. You've got an option. If it's not there, take off. If it is, throw it. I mean, I don't know why you would ever look anywhere else for this year. But I agree. Brock is rapidly ascending and strikes me as a guy that will make progress in a way that is noticeable, is appreciable, and we will see that kid making plays and throws within this offense and an understanding of the offense that leads us to say, I'm not so sure Tate Rodemaker starts in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, it'll be the dynamics of making the decision to go with somebody other than Tate are complicated. I don't think it's always about, I know it's not always about the better player in practice is the guy you go to, because you've got to set yourself up for the future here. Yeah. Let's just say that Brock Glenn is impressive as hell in fall camp and in practice during the week when he gets reps. Not a stretch. Well, the moment that you jump him over AJ Duffy, Duffy's gone, I would think, because Croman Hawk is next in line. So what you would see for the succession would be in spring, it's those 4 guys without Jordan Travis, but AJ might be auditioning for another university if you were to make that move. So don't make that move unless you are fully prepared for the consequence of saying, AJ, it's got to work out for you somewhere else at a different institution. So I don't know that you would elevate Brock unless it is clear and absolutely clear that you've got you one right there at that period of time. But I love the fact that this year's quarterback battle is 3-faceted. Like I said, it's in camp, it's in practice during the weeks of games, but then it's also in the garbage time. I'm really thrilled to see if we do get in this position, let's call it 5 times again this year. I want to know how they divvy up those reps in games. I want to know if they reward the guy who's better in practice with more reps. I want to see if they keep Brock at 4 because they want to maintain his shirt, or if he plays above that. I do think there's upward mobility in this program. If you earn it, you're going to get the reps. I don't think this is a program that plays complete politics and says, because you're a freshman, you can't do this, you can't do that. Brock seems to me like somebody who could knock on that door in a way that AJ did not at any point last fall. AJ did nothing last fall. But I think Brock Glenn could do something in practice to where you say, what do we have here?
I wish I knew AJ's mindset. I wish I knew the way he, processes things and thinks about things. I don't know that he looks at his situation the way that a lot of us in the media look at his situation, and a lot of the fan base looks at his situation. I feel like he thinks that he's going to be the next guy and he's competing to that end. And I hope that's what he thinks, and he should continue to compete to that end. It's not like AJ Duffy is devoid of talent.
No.
It's not like we're saying the kid can't play. I mean, I think we all agree that if it does play out to where one of those guys leaves, we'd all say it's probably going to be AJ Duffy. And if he leaves, would you be surprised if he were successful somewhere else? No, I don't think I would be surprised. I think he's good enough to maybe, have a career that's pretty impressive. It's just that you're so impressed with Brock Glenn, and that Tate is the guy that is set up to start next year, and that you've got a Croman Hawk coming in who, by the way, everybody loves and says is a real good prospect. So there's an odd man out eventually, and that's who we would vote to be the odd man out. But I want to make it clear that I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion.
Yep.
It's not. I'm not saying that AJ Duffy has no chance to turn this around and maybe rise up and be that guy. Maybe even next year, not this upcoming year, but the year after in 2024. Maybe. But he does have to take some great strides come the fall. I got to see it, man. I just haven't seen it yet. And I see days and moments and throws, but I don't see consistency.
No, the issue, so here's what holds me back from being definitive that AJ is going to be the odd man out, is he didn't do much of anything at all in practice last year, worth noting and saying, oh, look at him. AJ, man, he's going to make it tough. He's going to make the decisions tough for Mike Norvell with Tate. Like, we never got there to where you're saying, boy, what Tate might get passed by AJ in his redshirt freshman season. But then he goes in the games. Some guys are gamers more than practicers. And even in the limited reps that AJ Duffy was in games last year, everything just looked slow to him, meaning in a good way. It didn't look too fast-paced.
That's right. That's right.
He was a raw freshman who was rat trapping. He didn't look like that at all. So that's where I pause and I say, all right, if he gets in the games and he looks as calm as he does, maybe he's just not a practicer. And not meaning habits-wise, just that's not his forum. Jameis was a better gamer than he was practicer. It's a great example of it. He still was good in practice, but he was worlds better in games by any reports of people that were there day by day in Jimbo's media policy, which we couldn't see it. So that's what has me stop, short of saying that this is definitely going to happen. But if you're looking for boxes to check as the development goes along, man, Brock Glenn is just so impressive. So that's why I think that this is a non-zero chance that somebody knocks down the door here on Tate. But it's in all likelihood Tate's job, throughout the season.
It's weird. It's a weird position to be in, because if you're calculated and you're Mike Norvell and you're thinking about your quarterback situation, and who wouldn't be, and he's an offensive coach and he has preferences and what he wants to run and all of that, this would be a year you'd want a lot of looks at AJ Duffy, because you're trying to vet this thing. But it's a weird thing. If it's 32-0 at halftime, Florida State, and you're like, okay, starters, we're running one series, make it count. I'm getting you guys out of there. Okay. So you go down, kick a field goal, score a touchdown, whatever. It's 35, 39, nothing, whatever it is, right? All right. I got to turn to Tate. I got to let Tate play now. But in truth, I may really want to see what AJ Duffy's about for a whole half. And, it's like, golly, this is going to be tough. So I let Tate go out there. So now, again, in a weird way, this pregame conversation with coaches, that if you can presume an ass kicking, you almost do have to tell them, look, man, I don't know what's going to happen today. You guys could beat us, but by chance we're up big in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. I'm running my offense because I've got a quarterback battle for years to come in the making, and I got to see some things. And if I put in AJ Duffy and he's my third string quarterback, you need to know he ain't there to hand the ball off. I'm going to find out what he's got, and I'm going to leave some guys on the field that can play so I can gauge that.
This is so at the quarterback position for Florida State this year, it's returning to the old days where your interest is held until the end of the game. That's the way it is when you're a really good football program, and at this specific position, it's going to be again. It's like the old days, because you need to know. I mean, spring 2024 is going to be awesome, but we'd like as much evidence as possible of in-game performance to carry into that discussion for spring 2024. It's like, well, AJ threw 40 passes this year. He completed 27 of them, 4 touchdowns and a pick. He looked really good, especially in that Miami game when we blew their doors off in the first half and he played the whole third quarter. Remember that? Remember the third quarter of the Miami game? Boy, A.J. Duffy looked great as we kicked their ass for the second consecutive year. And then Brock came in the fourth quarter, and he was good too. So I don't know. Maybe it's just Miami's that bad. Maybe that's the story.
It's a fun discussion, but it is fun to think about how he'll handle that. That's a tough deal. You got to find out what you have. And you want Tate in all likelihood. He's been in the program for 50 years. You'd like Tate to be your starter in 2024 when we're over in Ireland, probably. And I don't think there's any evidence to suggest he won't be. But after that, man, I've got to really see what AJ can be. And how do I get him in there and get him a lot of meaningful reps? Well, the only way I can do it is if we're beating people up pretty badly in the second half of games. Yep. And then maybe, knock on wood, it doesn't happen. There could be a game this year where Jordan doesn't play or has to come out, and then Tate gets a lot of reps, and then AJ's your backup for that game or something. Maybe. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work, but
I'm not the guy who knocks Tate either. I think he's got ability, and I think they're going to be fine. I think that Brock might be good enough to push this thing. That's where I'm coming from there. But the connection between Tate Rodemaker and Johnny Wilson, the chemistry is already there. We saw that in the Louisville game. Johnny loves him some Tate. If Jordan's not in there, I think Johnny's preference is Tate.
Oh, yeah, and Tate will get it. He's going to get it. Neither of us are saying he won't, but we need to see something from A.J. Duffy this year, and you got to find a way to get him out on the field. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV. What's up, guys? Our next partner that you're going to hear from is Athletic Greens. You've heard me talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Happy to talk about them again. I take Athletic Greens every day. And I gave them a try because certainly I wanted more energy, sustained energy. I wanted to support my immune system. I don't like taking pills and vitamins per se. And I wanted something that tasted good too. And the first time I tried it, I was very surprised. It had an appreciable effect on my energy levels. And also, over time, you'll note that it helps your skin, your hair, your nails. I don't have a lot of hair, but if I did, I bet I could feel that. I bet I could tell. It's a comprehensive health habit, and it is a powerful one at that. AG1 is great for recovery. That's Athletic Greens. And I take mine basically when I wake up every morning. I don't have to worry about it because you get all the nutrients that you want. It's the best way to ensure that you're going to get all of your vitamins. It's a carbon-neutral business, by the way, if that's important to you. It is to a lot of people, and that's good to know as well. I would also note that it is a comprehensive solution to what you need from a supplement routine. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs right now with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCS. Helps me out, guys, if you use that. Not financially, but it lets them know that you heard this ad on my show. And I do take it, and I am vouching for them because I enjoy their product. It's athleticgreens.com/JCS. Check it out. I think you'll note the difference in your life with a simple drink each and every morning to start your day. athleticgreens.com/JCS.
Restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Hit grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist-prescribed blood thinner. Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com.
or call 1-855-ELOQUIS.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
If you want to laugh, listen to this real quick. Now, over the years on the JCS, we've had a number of pretty funny stories that are born out of baseball players who have returned home to, unfortunately and sadly, oftentimes, communities ravaged by poverty. In the Dominican Republic, for example, if you're a baseball prospect, a lot of times organizations will set up shop down there and they'll get guys pennies on the dollar. At least they did for years. I think it's gotten a lot better, Tom, now that the light has been shined on situations like that, where, remember, like, well, I won't besmirch any particular organization, but there was a stretch of time where a couple of organizations, one of them maybe a Dodger Blue, who would go and find their ways to poorer countries where people are, they say that you don't walk your way off the island, guys, swing away, right? And if you just think about the depth of talent from the Dominican Republic in Major League Baseball right now, first of all, it's a tip of the cap. That's unreal how many all-world players come from the Dominican Republic. And anyhow, for a long time, Major League Baseball should have been ashamed of themselves. They'd let Major League teams go there and set up shop, and they'd offer a kid $20,000, and that was more money than that kid was ever going to see in his life, and was on the streets in the Dominican Republic shining shoes. Sammy Sosa famously, by the way, shine shoes. That's why I bring him up. So it's changed a lot now. But one of the problems, and you get the predicament, but it leads to some hilarious stories that you're like, well, that's a toughie. That's not going to work out. I remember saying one time at the Jeff Cameron Show PR firm that it was a delicate deal, because if you sign a player, Yasiel Puig or somebody like this, okay, and you know that player is going to want to go back home after he's made millions of dollars, then your fear is that he is going to be targeted by various groups of people who are going to utilize his fame and newfound wealth for their criminal scheme, which is to say he'd kidnap him, whatever it might be, hold his relatives hostage. This is the kind of stuff you would see happen in impoverished countries. It happens. It's unfortunate, sad. We get it. The other thing you see happen is a lot of times guys go back and they've got beef with people they grew up with, and it's lost on them that they are now worth, I don't know, $500,000, $22 million, $3 million. Don't go home. Don't go home. Big Papi went home and got shot. Yeah. Don't go home. You can't go home. Don't go home. It's tough times. Aid in other ways. Do whatever you can to help the situation, but don't actually go there yourself, because this is not going to work out. Well, we have the latest in that realm of, ooh, that ain't good. And it made me laugh, but in a very jaded way. Here you go. This is good. The Cubs have a prospect. I've been reading about this, Tom. More than most, I tend to read about prospects because I'm always looking for the next guy in Pittsburgh. The current guys are never good enough. I've always got to look at the next guy that's going to come up and be good, and then we'll lose to the Yankees in free agency. But I always need, or the Mets soon, but I'm always looking, like, yes, Starling Marte and others, you'll take them. I got it. So I've read about this guy. This morning, I checked. I do a few things every morning with my coffee. I check prospects. I check stories for us to talk about. I just cursory glances at these type things. And I came across this one. This is a good story. Hector Gomez writes, the Dominican National Police are looking for Cubs prospect Jose Frelin Alcantara because he shot Darwin Diaz to death last Friday night. The reason I'm laughing about this is my man just signed, and they were pumped about him and his prospects. I read this lengthy story about, oh man, the Cubs have themselves a guy. This Alcantara will be in the majors in no time. But alas, he will not be in the majors in no time. A $500,000 bonus just given to him last year. Fourth highest, Tom, fourth highest bonus given to the international players that the organization signed last year. There are 30 international players that are making somewhere near that. He was the fourth highest. The shooting took place in an argument over money inside his car, and at one point he got mad. He got mad, and he shot the dude. And now he'll never make it to the Cubs organization. So once again, as delicate as it might be, everybody, the Jeff Cameron Show PR firm advises their clients, unfortunately, as proud as you should be to have overcome your circumstances and the pride you feel in your country, very, very understandable. You can't go home. You can never go home. I'm sorry. It's the way it works. My man, $500,000 and you're in an argument in a car? What are we doing? What are we doing?
We're playing out a scene of Jackie Brown is what we're doing. We used to be beautiful. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What happened to you, man? I think the PR firm, here's an instructional lesson, and perhaps Mr. Diaz would still be alive if we could have had this opportunity. But you fly down there with armored cars as we come down as Americans, and that would probably be, a target in and of itself. But you get where you need to go, and you tell every individual client that is about to sign, before you sign, understand this. You need to get your affairs in order, as in you taking anybody with you. We need to process everybody that we possibly can. We'll see what the situation is at the border in the United States, but we got to get your people with you in order to protect their safety. And then when home comes with you, to the extent that you wanted to, then you sign the paperwork, and then we're off, and we're moving. And maybe in 15 years, you can take a shot, and not literally, but you can come down to where you used to live. But for right now, you got to take home with you so that nobody dies.
Yeah, and this isn't the same, nor ever will there be a story as great as there are farmhands in my pool. That is an all-time story that Matt Millar and I laughed at for days. My man shot farmhands in his pool, and when asked why, he said, there are farmhands in my pool.
I don't remember this. Who was this, a player?
Oh, yeah, it's a former player that had tons and tons of money and went home. Same thing. Can't go home, Tom. And basically got angry. There were farmhands in his pool, and he shot him. He shot him. And that was a long time ago. We'll have to get Millar on the case. But that is, yeah. Are you typing farmhands in my pool?
I did. I typed MLB player farmhands pool, and it didn't ping, which tells me that this is at least 15 years old as a story.
Older. It may be the first 5 years I was on the air. It may be one of the first 5 years, maybe first 7 years I was on the air. Yeah, it was an incredible story. It was a multi-millionaire baseball player. And now the clip we used as a promo has me saying there are farmhands in my pool, but the problem is, I don't think that the headline would have read that, Tom. I don't think you're going to find that ping.
No, but I mean, it would find the body of the article, and then it would pop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to, yeah.
I just texted Millar, who killed the farmhands in his pool? And
Millar will know. He will know. He's got a steel trap for a memory in that situation. Yeah, it's all time good. I would also note, by the way, one other thing on this, to put a ribbon on this story about Jose Frelin Alcantara, who shot Darwin Diaz to death over an argument in his car, despite having just been signed to $500,000 bonus last year. The New York Post reported that this is the second time in 2 years that the Cubs have had a prospect accused of a major crime. Unfortunately for the Cubs, pitcher Jesus Camargo Corrales was arrested, Tom, in 2021 when Colorado police found 21 pounds of methamphetamine and 1.2 pounds of OxyContin pills in a Cubs logo duffel bag. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison.
Jeez.
Doesn't look like he'll be making his debut anytime soon.
No. That sounds like a dark John Hughes comedy, doesn't it?
Oh, it's so good. That's imagine you got your Cubs bag, proud major leaguer to be. We're gonna need to look inside that bag. What you got in there? Some baseballs, cleats? No.
Yes,
No, we're good.
baseballs. Okay, chewing gum. Let me through.
I won't even figure to go through this. I will segue somewhat unsuccessfully. It's not professional. Don't try it at home. To the Dear Andy segment that was posted on The Athletic today, because it does involve Florida State, and I wanted to touch on it.
Drugs in a duffel bag to Dear Andy. I like it.
Yeah. He would be proud of me. With the ACC considering unequal revenue distribution, they're not considering. Shouldn't the kings of the Big Ten and SEC take a hard look at this too when their TV deals are up for renewal? While drastic, Ohio State, Alabama, and others could tell the Northwesterns and the Vanderbilts of the world that they're not willing to take less. The Kings will simply move on and create a new conference with the best of both leagues. That was a question posited on the Dare Andy segment there on in The Athletic. And here's the response. The ACC announced Wednesday that its schools have approved a performance-based revenue incentive plan that will provide more money to the schools whose teams win on the field and bring in more money to the conference through championship participation. This is an olive branch to Clemson and to Florida State, the only two full members to make the college football playoff or win a football national title this century. This is a better way to handle this topic than, we think you're a bigger brand, so we'll give you more money. Because it allows schools such as Wake Forest, which has invested in football and found some success on the field, a chance to earn some money. But it also won't cover much of the $30 million a year at least shortfall between the ACC's distribution and the SEC's distribution that will begin in 2024. So it won't solve the biggest problem for the programs, such as Florida State and Clemson, which have to compete against the SEC for their players. Unfortunately, unequal revenue sharing rarely solves the problem it's supposed to. Everything that Michael writes there makes sense, but I can offer one sentence argument for keeping revenue distribution equal in the Big Ten and the SEC.
Communism. Sorry.
What?
Communism.
Leagues that have used an uneven revenue distribution plan have faced existential threats because of issues that were created by uneven revenue distribution. The Big 12 feels remarkably collegial now. It felt like the Hunger Games back when the league distributed revenue unevenly. Friction between Texas and Nebraska and Texas A&M simmered. Missouri looked for a way out. Meanwhile, USC's beef with the Pac-10, later Pac-12, multiplied when that league went away from its uneven revenue distribution and added Colorado and Utah, creating the Pac-12 network. Those concerns were never addressed. Guess where USC is now? Congratulations to Michael for finding a different way to ask, when are the Big Ten and the SEC going to drop Indiana and Vanderbilt question that I get every week. But I don't think those leagues will drop anyone, and I don't think they'll change the way they distribute their money. They've seen where that leads, and the stability those two leagues currently enjoy is amongst the most valuable assets that they possess. So it's an interesting answer. I tell you this, they could tell Indiana goodbye, and they could tell Illinois goodbye if they wanted, if they were to simultaneously announce that they were being replaced by Florida State and Clemson. I mean, that would work. Same is true with the SEC. If they wanted to, they could say, it's been real, Vanderbilt. It's been real, Mississippi State. We're going to add Florida State and Clemson. Have a good day. We're better.
Yeah, okay, so let me throw this outside the box idea at you then. With that idea, and perhaps also using that the Magnificent Seven could be the 9 if you add Notre Dame and Louisville to the mix. What if those teams got together and voted to contract? Is there a provision that they could create in which they say Boston College and Syracuse and Duke or whatever, they go away? And if so, you just take that money that would have gone to those universities at a $40 million clip a year, and then you redistribute it to the league members that are left over. You'd have to contract more than 3 teams, I understand. You'd probably have to contract closer to 6 in order to make the numbers work. But would there be merits to shrinking the conference down to smaller, being locked into a deal to 2036 with fewer teams with the same amount of money that's split up and divvied up among those amount of teams?
I sense that there would be a lawsuit.
At that point, if you're going to get sued, you might as well just go to the Power 2.
Yeah, I think there'd be a lawsuit. Look, in an ideal world, could you tell Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Duke, Boston College, Syracuse, amongst others, have a good day? Yeah. I mean, I think in an ideal world that'd be nice, but that ain't happening. And I do think what's really interesting is this idea. Okay, you brought up the Magnificent Seven, the Elite Eight, the Fleet-Footed Nine, whatever it might be. Like, so you grab these teams that want to play big boy football and have invested and decided they care very deeply in the product and that they know the future of their athletic department depends on it. So they're all in. So you're going to grab Clemson, Florida State. You're going to grab North Carolina and Virginia. You're going to grab Miami, I don't know, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Louisville. Whatever you're going to do, okay? So you grab those, and then you go and you grab a couple of other names, and you reform a new conference, and you try to work out a deal. That I mean, to me, that I guess is a plan that might work. But I don't know. I mean, do you have a home? Is Amazon going to do it? Would YouTube do it?
No, I think ESPN would do it because at that point the ACC doesn't exist. They say, all right, we want similar parameters. We want a bump of 10% on the total, but we're working with fewer teams, so the distribution plan is high enough that we like it. Because now we are actually operating. Like I can't do the math that quickly, but let's just say that you were dealing with 8 teams in that conference, and the payout's the exact same instead of the 14. At that point, you would be receiving, I think, a hell of a lot closer to the gap. But truth be told, look, man, that's just an outside the box idea. I'd rather go the traditional route and then just go join the Power 2 and be done with it. The negotiations are already done. The legwork's already done. Once you get through the liability, which is not small for the conference fee plus the grant of rights, it's turnkey from that point on. I'd rather do that. But I just wonder if they are actually considering outside the box ideas in order to go out on their own maybe a little bit, because they do have precedent, and these negotiations for the Big 12, for example, do inform that we could be paid a hell of a lot more money on the open market if we were actually on the open market today.
Well, I talked to somebody, Andy Staples, in fact, who mentioned that, hey, listen, Florida State, in theory, could be in the Big 12 tomorrow. I mean, they could file in the state of Florida, find a sympathetic judge, and then this thing would be hung up in the courts, and they'd be in the Big 12 tomorrow. They could walk, and go from there. But I don't think Florida State wants to be in the Big 12. And even if you were to project let's say the Big 12 were to pick off Oregon and Washington before the Big 10 does, and then add Florida State and Clemson to what they already have.
Yeah.
How appealing is that? What kind of television deal are they going to get with those 4 brands to go along with the big cities that they have had? They've been smart about who they've gone after.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
grabbing an Orlando or a Tampa is not dumb. You got to do that.
No, that's fine. But if you are a Coca-Cola, you're going to brand with a Super Bowl. You're not going to brand with the Arena Bowl. You know what I mean? And
it wouldn't be the equal of the Big 10 and the SEC by far, but it certainly could garner a lot more money than we're getting in the ACC is all.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I just, at this point, if you're going to go in and you're going to leave the ACC, you don't leave for that.
I agree. I agree. It's just everybody's spitballing right now, trying to find the quickest way out the damn door. And it just, every day there's another story about this. And look, at the end of the day, I really don't think it'll be all that long before Florida State is gone from the ACC and in the SEC. I do think that is going to happen. Now, again, my great concern is it going to happen next year? Is it going to happen the year after? Is it going to happen the year after that? Or is it 7 or 8 years away, which no bueno, man. That can't happen. You cannot be 30 million plus behind for the next 7 years and expect to step into that conference when you eventually get there and have any chance in hell.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, I will always point back to the example of it costs you $50 million for 1 year for Texas and Oklahoma to leave the Big 12. And if you use that as precedent as a negotiation tactic, and you're talking about a longer period of time, I think you can discount it more to maybe the price being all in 500 mil if you leave by 26, which isn't that far away. Like you start in the SEC in 2026 and you pay it against future disbursements. You take out a loan, you do whatever you need to do to make it all work. I think that's the baseline. I think it'll be quicker. It feels like it's going to happen quicker, whatever the settlement is, whatever the votes are needed within the conference. But I love having that number because we were searching for years for what does it cost? What the hell does it cost? Well, Texas and Oklahoma showed you what it actually costs on a 1-year basis. You would get a discount, I think, for the longer period of time because it's a lump sum of cash in terms of a commitment, a contractual commitment to all these other institutions. The thing I would say, and at some point, if you do want to settle, you can make a compelling argument as time goes on if you're Florida State and say, do you want 100% of nothing, or do you want a certain percentage of what we would pay through 2036? Because either way, we're not going to be here. So it's your call. Do you want to have this conversation or not?
Well, I think that's what we have said. I believe that's exactly what they've said. And the ACC's response right now is, look, we'll work with you. We'll try to get something done. But, I mean, these are half measures. And I just don't think the other schools, 2036 is a long ways away. And they're just telling Florida State and Clemson and others like them to pound sand.
Yeah.
They're challenging Florida State to take it to court.
Yeah, it could be, too, that, maybe in a back room off the record because people are adults. They can be. Jim Phillips says, look, I get it. You're leaving. So I'll float you about 5 or 10 mil more this year if you do your job and win some games so you can speed up the process. You don't want to be here? We don't want you here. We get it. This is the way it's going. But, maybe this measure with rewards for, success initiatives or whatever the hell they call it, if we're going to speed up the process so we get what we're getting, okay, fine. We'll help you. We'll toss you a bone. But we're not going to do that with television and eyeballs on sets because that's, I'm just bleeding these guys dry faster. They're going to die anyway. That doesn't make sense for me.
Jim Phillips is in an impossible position. There's no, listen, I don't feel sorry for him. It's whatever, but my man can't win here. The ACC cannot survive without Florida State and Clemson in it. He knows they don't want to be here. He knows they're not going to stay. He knows they're exhausting every possible avenue by which to get out of this conference, but yet he still has to speak to all the other member institutions, and he has to try to create some sort of togetherness to try to keep this conference together. And bonding element to keep this conference together. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he does other than what he's doing, which is just put on a brave face and tell everybody that they're working on it. He's like, I asked this question to Ira last week. I'm asking it again. What does he do every day? And I don't mean that as in he's lazy. I don't think he's lazy. I just think his hands are tied. I don't think there's anything to be done.
No, honestly, if I was him, I'd have a clandestine second function here. And I mean this in a good way. Like sometimes there are executives who preside over a teardown. And what they try to do is they spin off the assets, find a good home for each asset, be it personnel or whatever, like capital stuff. Like
correct. Yeah.
If I were him, I would be back channeling to make sure that I could find every one of my member institutions that I could a home in the event that this thing does break apart. And maybe that's the way he comes out looking like a hero and finds his next gig. He's like, look, Clemson and Florida State were going to take care of themselves. Ditto for North Carolina and the Virginia schools. And, so I knew that about 7 of them were going to be okay wherever they landed. But I've got to find a solution. It's my job. I am responsible for the well-being of Syracuse and Boston College and Duke. So I work the phones for them. That you could see that interview 5 years from now. I worked the phones. I found them a good place. I connected them with somebody who could find them a home for basketball or whatever it is. And that's his legacy.
It'd be a hell of a legacy, by the way. You'd tip the cap to the guy. You'd be like, well done, sir. You read the tea leaves. You admitted what we all knew to be true, was that this was a fruitless endeavor and the league was going to cease to exist before 2036. And so you just decided, you know what? I can't make it work. It's not going to work. We don't have people who want to make it work. We've got to move on. The conditions in college football have changed in a way that I'm devastated about. I hate it. Like, if you're him, he hates this. He is a traditionalist. Lots of people hate this. But the difference is You can hate it and decide to push back against what's inevitable, or you can decide, I lost. My way of thinking did not win out. Money ruled the day yet again. It's not my fault. The NCAA, ESPN, Fox, you name it, they all conspired against us for what this grand vision once was. It was obliterated long ago. I say this to people all the time. You want purity? You want to watch the game for the sport to be the sport? And you want true student athletes? Watch the Ivy League, guys. Go watch the Ivy League. Guess what? Nobody does. Nobody does. So there ain't no big television contract for the Ivy League or anything like it. That's the reality that we're in.
Yeah, watch the service academies instead. Because like the Ivy League, they lower the entry requirements for those players. They wouldn't get into the Ivy League if it wasn't for football. Many of them, I know that's how that works. So it's all different degrees of what you can stomach. And this might be too much for a lot of people. But when you get to this level, there's no doubt about this. And we know this dealing with executives over our careers. Whether you're Michael Alford or you're the president of a university like McCullough or you're Jim Phillips, you're playing several hands or several chessboards at the same time. You're playing multiple games. You've got the long game, the short game, the doomsday scenario, the best case scenario. But you have to line up your ducks in case any one of those scenarios is the reality. So my assumption is maybe he's already had some of those conversations, but he just hopes that that's not the chessboard that he's got to play all the way to the end of the game.
Yeah, it's brutal. Right now, he's pulling a good paycheck, though. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.